for as long as I've lived in the United States, to have the kind of burden, this stereotypical notion of Black people in these places or women in these spaces that others don't have.
Yeah. I think it's important for our audience to understand that there's so much that drives perception around our capabilities as Black people. And I think we sometimes refer to this as they're having a deficit mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to us about what that means. What do you, when you hear that, what is that?
I think the unfortunate reality in many of the, even with the most well-intentioned people, is that there is an unfortunate bias that sometimes shows up where if you're a person of color, and we know this with just being woman too, that you don't have the skills and or capacity that your male counterpart might have, or somebody who is a white person, that there is more space offered for others than I've witnessed of my own peers and through my own career coming up, that that's definitely been palpable, right? It's been something that is clear. So I think I have a fantastic opportunity at BRIC, in an institution that, is not it's not a BIPOC created institution. It's not an institution that is for specifically BIPOC people. However, I have an opportunity to ensure that while I'm there, at least, that our rearticulation, which we have of our values, of our vision and our mission, is through a DEIA lens in every way.
Right. And because our audience is so broad, when you say DEIA, what does that mean?
So diversity, equity, inclusivity, and access. And when I was heading Arts for Connecticut, we worked, the team and I at the Connecticut Office of the Arts worked on a statewide initiative called READY, Relevance, Equity, Access, Diversity, and Inclusion. And what I really loved about the READY framework was that relevance is a really important component. And it is at BRIC right now. It's not, we're using the DEIA framing, but relevance is a core part of how we service, how we respond, how we create programs, all of that. How are we being relevant? And how is it relevant to the communities that we're serving? So I think the R is really important. I think it's important that we're relevant.
Why do you suppose the word white supremacy is so charged? Because I find that in talking to people that are on boards and the like, that can be a word that really causes people to recoil and become defensive. Now, I know some may say that's attributed to fragility, but how do you see us being able to work? How would you work with that? How do you work with that?
Yeah, there is this way that I think that for my own white friends who I've had conversations with, and I've asked them, using that rigorous curiosity.
You have to.
They've shared that for them it conjures, Ku Klux Klan.
Ku Klux Klan.
It conjures
Oath Keepers.
It like violence against Black bodies, and it's so
lynching.
For them it translates in such a violent way that they can't wrap their head around it. And what white supremacy really is internalized superiority.
Right. It has to do with whiteness in that sense. Yes.
And this idea that your way is the way or the right way. And if we shift that, you have to prove yourself and you have to prove me wrong. So again, here, this goes and reinforces the deficit posture, right? So if white supremacist equals internalized superiority, then brown and Black people are always working from a position of having to prove.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So being a woman so being who you are in this moment, what does support look like to you? Meaning oftentimes when we're in positions of leadership, we need help in particular areas that, whereas a white counterpart would need help in other areas because we're all going to need support. What would support look like for an African-American woman leading a major cultural institution in Brooklyn?
I think that in all the positions I've had, support would look like seeing me as a whole person, as a whole person, not just a component, not just the person running the institution, but feeling like I am visible as a whole person, as a mom, as a daughter, as a, I think that kind of also that it's almost like when you think about young people, right? And we talk about social and emotional learning. As leaders in spaces where you're Black or brown, there's not many of us in this at the scale of BRIC, and it's lonely. You feel like you're on an island, and so you are always, kind of making sure, and you're the leader, right? So you're trying to make sure that you're creating space to unpack a lot. You're often shifting and transitioning cultures. And it's a lot of emotional work. And so in order for you to recharge, feeling that support, and I'm saying this throughout my whole career, as I reflect back from being a visual arts coordinator, getting that emotional return by people either understanding. I think people, the organizations, both from a staff, the full organization, understanding, creating a context that people understand the work and not the idea of what the work is, because it's a lot of work. And I think that's missed sometimes, how much additional work it is for Black and brown leaders.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think where I see challenges is access to certain networks.
Right.
And I'm talking about, since so much of art and culture is driven by philanthropy, the access to major donors, the access to certain foundations. How do you navigate those particular challenges? So there's a couple points here, because we're in New York City, right? The entire nation, the federal government, has such a small percentage of the federal budget for arts and culture. It's around 150 million. New York has 190 million, if I'm not mistaken, right? So think about that. So the access to resources in New York is a lot greater. I think what's also wonderful and interesting is the investment that foundations are making in BIPOC leaders, like with Darren Walker, like with Elizabeth Alexander, is with the Lambent Foundation, with Michelle Kofi. It is profound. I never saw that when I was in my 20s. With foundations weren't led unless it's rare, right? I'm sure there were some out there, but it's rare. And so I think what's good is that a lot of the foundation space, they're modeling the way. Wallace Foundation now with Bahia Ramos, like people are modeling the way. There are leaders that have been invited in, that are now modeling the way, that are actually, because of their own experiences, doing research and studies and surveys and conversations about these issues where before they weren't talked about. And so that is great. You talked about investment in, for I think I was reading a research report that talked about around 2% of foundation dollars go to Black-led organizations, institutions. So of course, that is the uphill battle. So what does the investment on the foundation's part look like outside of just pure dollars? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's absolutely about creating space for connectivity, for research that continued research that will help to reinforce the systems that we need to thrive in. I think also, creating space for connectivity for the leaders nationally. There's so many amazing leaders nationally, and creating more spaces where we can coexist or be a brain trust, be part of a brain trust. I think creating policies and protocols that do not give to institutions that are not aligned with the kind of values of these foundations. So if they are actually leaning into DEIA work, that their funding reflects that, and they're holding institutions accountable, and by all means hold all of us accountable. But putting that into practice is meaningful. Culture is another piece of it, having action-oriented plans. And I'm proud to say that BRIC will be unveiling our DEIA action plan in the coming months, later this year.
Action plan. Now we're getting ready to run up against time,
Yep.
But I wanted to I'm going to give BRIC a shout out.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't have the show Brooklyn Savvy if it wasn't the training that I got at what was then called BCAT.
Yes.
So the work that you do makes such a difference to people on so many different levels. And I would just like to encourage our viewers to really check out BRIC, and to check out BRIC Arts Media Brooklyn, and to check out the free speech, and all of those media products that you have. Yes.
What a great shout out, Toni. Thank you so much. You have really been such an ally for us, and you are one of our, you're what we're like, Toni, she came through BRIC back in the day. But we've had that great opportunity and privilege of training over 20,000 people in our free speech work at this point. People who have gone on to great careers in film and television, have won Emmys. We are so proud to have that opportunity. And I feel so fortunate to be at BRIC. And I feel doubly fortunate to be able to navigate, as challenging as this moment is, to be able to navigate this moment with the team at BRIC and grow as a leader because of it. So I'm just grateful for all you've done for us, and I'm grateful to our institution.
And we're very happy to have you. So we're going to be bringing you on again, because it's very clear that you have so much to bring to these conversations. So thank you so much, Kristina.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, we'll see you next time on Brooklyn Savvy.